What is this? What is this? This is a tiny computer. Look at the size of this thing. This thing is so small, it is literally the size of half my hand size. This is a tiny computer. It's got 4 cores, CPU cores, and 4 gigs of RAM. It runs on an SD card, but this is a tiny little computer. Now, you must be wondering, why is it that I'm showing you this tiny little computer? Well, the whole point is that, you know, you can do a lot of things with this, right? You can actually run you can run websites on it, you can run services on it. In fact, I'm actually running an entire radio station on this computer along with some code that'll actually stream the radio station music to multiple platforms. So I can actually do that with this tiny little computer, right? So this computer, literally, it's the Orange Pi 03, and this computer costs 20 US dollars. So it costs about 35 Australian dollars. That's about 20 to 22 US dollars. That is a really, really good price for such a small computer. Now, what can you do with this computer? Now, today I'm actually going to talk about running a website, running a full-fledged website on this computer. Just imagine that, right? So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Yeah, let me actually switch to my other screen and I want to talk a bit more about this. So, just talking about websites here for a second, right, guys? Now, as I told you, this little guy, okay, it's a 20 US dollar computer, right? It's got a little heatsink on it that'll cost you about like $3 or $4 more. So it's like you're gonna be $25 out of pocket, be using one of these. And it's got Wi-Fi as well, Wi-Fi 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands, a Wi-Fi, right? So that's actually great. Now, just talking about websites, like, if someone wants to build a website, right? Maybe it's a personal blog, maybe it's a business website, maybe it's a shop, maybe it's a store, whatever it might be, right? Now, what are the options that we have today? Right now, we can actually go for something like Wix. Wix is really popular. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. What is the pricing that we have on Wix? Okay, so Wix premium plans. So the business elite plan is $179 dollars a month. This is Australian dollars, but it's 179. The business is $50 a month. Core is 33. Then you've got your light, which is $16 a month. Compare plans and features. So these are basically the plans, right? That Wix has. They are definitely way more expensive than just investing like $25 and you're getting one of these, correct? So that's great. Okay, what else do we have? Then you've got something like Squarespace. Now, Squarespace as well, I mean, they've been really good at hiding their price, to be honest with you. I was looking for the website and I was like, okay, I couldn't really find their price, to be honest. I'm sure it'll come later on when we start actually building the website. I'm sure they give you some free time with it, but it's probably something up out there just like Wix, probably even a bit more because I know that Squarespace is a premium sort of website. So you've got that. Then you've got something like, I'll just give you another example, something like Bandzoogle, which is not that popular, but Bandzoogle is a nice website builder as well for, bands and things like that. But look at their prices. So on a basic Bandzoogle, you pay $6.37 US dollars. This is not Australian, a month, and you get like very very basic sort of website. You don't get any real any perks or anything like that with it. The light version is, and that's only a EPK. It's not even a full website. It's just a single page, just one pager. Really, that's all it is. Then you got the light version, which is essentially you can build a multi-page website, but here you get only 10 pages, and a few things. And it goes on and so forth. It goes up to $16 US dollars for the Pro version, which is, yes, it is cheaper than Wix, but it is still pretty much out there, right? So you've got that. That's still quite a hefty price to pay monthly for just your website, right? Now you've got something like Weebly, just as a comparison. Weebly as well. It's not even a full. You can't customize it that much, but it's the free version is $0 a month, but there is limitations, of course, to that. Then you've got your personal, professional, and performance, which goes to Aussie $30 a month. And these are obviously you got to pay annually, otherwise it costs you even more. It costs you 35 month on month, right? So websites are pretty expensive. Now what I'm actually going to do is there's a website builder, and I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Ghost, right? The Ghost website builder, Ghost CMS, I should type in. There you go. Now the Ghost CMS, this is an incredible CMS, very very similar to WordPress. It's got a lot of the WordPress features, but all built in, right? You don't need any extra plugins, and that's why Ghost is super fast. It is a really super fast and super lightweight content management system. Correct. So it's essentially a website, and you can explore it. It does have a lot of templates, which we will actually get into, but I just want to have a look at the pricing for Ghost as well. So if you do go with Ghost, and essentially it's going to cost you, so the $9 starting build annually, that's not monthly, you get 18 free official themes, and you get one staff user, so it's only for yourself. Goes up to 25 US dollars, 50, and all the way up to $200 a month for the full-fledged website. Now, of course, the nice thing about Ghost is that they have an open source system. They have an open source application, which essentially is the Ghost Docker. You can actually go ahead and install this CMS on any of your computers and have it completely for free. You don't need anything else. So this is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to deploy Ghost on this little bad boy, right? This tiny little computer. I am so fascinated with it. $20 to $25, and you can get your hands on one of these, ladies and gentlemen. So I recommend you get one of these. All right, let's get back into the video though. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take a little SD card that I've got right here in my hand. I've got an SD card, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a operating system on that SD card. So what we're gonna do, and the idea is that when we're using something like this, right? This is obviously, as I said, it's 4 CPU cores and 4 gigs of RAM. So that's not bad for this little fellow. However, we want to keep things light. So if you don't want to install something like Ubuntu or Raspberry Pi or OS and things like that that have a lot of bloatware on it, I'm going to choose Debian, right? Because Debian essentially does not have all that extra bloatware on it. So, and we're going to actually go with a light version of Debian. It's called Diet Pi. Yes, it is a pie on a diet. All right, let's get into it. All right, awesome. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little card reader that I've actually popped in the SD card in here, and I'm actually going to go burn an image on it. So let's just go ahead and do that. So what I'm actually going to go ahead and do is open up Bellina Etcher. This is what I'm going to use for flashing. So I'm going to go ahead and say flash. I'm going to find my Diet Pi image. I'm going to select the target, which is the 31 GB SD card that I've just placed in there. I'm going to go ahead and flash the SD card. Right, so now it's actually going ahead and flashing that SD card. It's decompressing the file first. But while that's actually happening, I do want to actually show you Diet Pi. So if I do go to Diet Pi right here, this is essentially, it's like the name suggests, it's a lightweight operating system for single board computers. So if you actually go to the dietpi.com website, and you can actually see all its features, essentially what they talk about over here, and then if you scroll further down, you can see all the little computers that they actually do support, all the single board computers, or SBCs as they call them, that they do support. They've got everything from Raspberry Pi, the Pine 64, RDXA, that's Radza, Orange Pi, RISC-V, and RISC-V, and several others. But today we're going to take a look at the Orange Pi. So this is one of my favorite boards right here, because you do get them very easily available, and they've got decent support for them. They're getting really popular, and they work really well. So far I've been really happy with this brand. This is the one that we're working with, the Orange Pi 03. So if you look at it, this is the Pi without the heatsink. I've got it on with the heatsink, but essentially it comes in a few different versions. It comes from with a 1 gig RAM version, a 2 gig RAM version, and a 4 gig RAM version. I've got the 4 gig RAM version, and I'll tell you, if you're going to get one of these, it's definitely worth getting the 4 gig RAM version. All right, so that's great. So that's really what we're going to be using, and this is the operating system that we're flashing on it. Let's go have a look at our flash right here. Great. So as you can see, dietpy has been written to my SD card. It's actually flashed it, and it's popped up with the files that it's actually gone ahead and flashed on my SD card. So that's actually great. That's fine. Flash completed. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to eject SD card from my computer. And I'm going to actually take out the SD card, pull it out, and just pop it in to the orange Pi 03. It's got a little bit of a slot right at the back, and you can actually pop it in there. That's perfect. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and connect this to Ethernet. You do definitely want to connect it to Ethernet the first time you're booting it up, and you want to give it power. That's really all you need, and we're going to actually use an SSH platform such as Putty to actually connect to it and connect it from this computer just so SSH. All right, so I'll be right back with you guys when I actually get this guy powered on. Alright guys, so all I've really done so far is I've taken that Orange Pi 03 little fellow and I've given it Ethernet, I've given it some internet, and I've plugged it into the SD, the USB-C, and I've given it power, right? So that's all we've really done. Now let's actually get back to the video and let's actually connect to it and see what we need to do to get this guy going, right? So let's just actually move to the other screen. Okay, great. So we do actually have the Orange Pi booting up. So I just want to give it like another few seconds right there. Okay, great. I think I've given it a bit of time. So let's actually try and connect to it. So what I'm actually going to go ahead and do is check on my router just on the other screen. And I'm going to find its IP address. Great. So now I do have the IP address and I'm actually going to go to it right now. So it does give me a little IP, which is 192.168.1.141, and that's the IP that's shown up on my router, and that's the IP address I'm going to try and connect to. So there we go. So the first thing that we want to do when we log into it is we want to log in using the root login, and the password should be dietpy, and there we go. So we've logged in, it is booting up. Okay, so that does take a while. It's while you're actually booting it up. So what we've done so far is all we've done is logged in to the Orange Pi using the login as root and the password as dietpy. And when you do log in, it goes through its boot sequence, it does a few updates, and it'll present you with this screen. Right now, this is essentially just a dietpy survey. It asks you if you want to opt in and upload data or do you want to opt out. So frankly, I'm actually going to just select opt out and purge uploaded data. I'd rather just keep it as clean as I can and as empty as I can. So I'm actually going to do that and I'm going to press OK. And we've actually opted out. And when we actually do that, it's going to keep going with the rest of its processes, right? So just be patient with it and it will actually get to the command prompt, once it does. Okay, so while it was actually continuing to update, we're presented with another screen over here, and it says change global software password for dietpy software installs. This password will be encrypted and saved. So essentially asking you to update the global password. I'm going to say okay. I do want to update the global password. I'm going to put in the password that I'm going to use for this, and I'm just going to press on tab, and I'm going to okay, and it's going to re-enter that password again. Press tab again. Okay. It's actually going to give me another dialog screen. And it's great that it does this because these are a lot of things that a lot of the operating systems actually don't. So this is actually a good thing. Otherwise, you'd have to do all this manually, right? So let's actually go ahead. So now it's actually talking about a serial or UART console is currently enabled. Would you like to disable it? And let me just without reading all this, I've already read it. I can actually tell you it's definitely worth disabling it. You will not require it for actually installing a website. If you do have other use cases for it, go right ahead and keep it, but I'm actually going to go ahead and disable it. So serial consoles can be re-enabled at any time via the dietpy config, which is very, very easy. Okay, so serial UART console is currently enabled. Would you like to disable it? I'm going to go yes. So I'm disabling that. Okay, great. So now we've reached the Diet software page. Now this actually gives us an option to install actual Diet software. You can select software from a whole list, and there's an entire list of software that you can actually install on the Diet. But just to keep things really, really simple, really depends on the use case, I'm actually gonna go to cancel. I don't want to actually install any software at this point in time for my Diet, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to exit, right? So Diet has not been fully installed. This must be completed prior to using the Diet by selecting go install. Okay, so it's actually telling us, I don't want to actually install any software, but it's actually telling us to go for this go install. Diet was unable to detect any additional software selected for the installation. You can use Diet software at a later date to install optimized software for your catalog as required. Do you wish to continue with Diet as a pure minimal image? And I'm going to say OK. And that's exactly what we want. So that took about, let's say, about 6 to 7 minutes for me, right? Including answering and explaining on this video with the dialogue. So literally it would take you about 5 minutes, right, for the entire process. So now what we have over here is we've got an extremely minimal operating system of Debian, which is Diet essentially. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install Ghost on this. So just before we get into the installation process, I do want to actually show you what is available with Ghost. So if I go to Ghost CMS again, and let's just actually browse the Ghost CMS real quick, because I want to really explain to people how powerful Ghost actually is, and also the fact that you need such a low-powered machine to run it on. So literally, you can have a website up and running, connect to the internet 24/7, your personal blog or business website really easily and really cheaply. But what I want to do is I want to actually go through some of the templates that you do actually have with Ghost. So if I go resources and if you go to themes, these are some of the themes that they do have, and these are all for free. Remember that. Oh, well, not all of them. Sorry, you can actually select. So let's say price. We want to look at the free ones, for example, and these are the free ones that actually come with the Ghost CMS. So you've got source, you've got taste, you've got solo, and you will actually see that it's really extremely easy to actually use Ghost. It's extremely easy, and it's great for when you want to have subscribers, right? So one of my favorite ones actually is episode for podcasting. I think that's really great. And you've got Casper as well. This is a really, really nice theme, really flexible as well. And you can actually have members. You can have members that join and subscribe to your blog as well, which is really great. So just wanted to kind of give you a bit of an overview on some of the themes that are available with Ghost. And of course, these are available if you go ahead and sign up with Ghost itself and you pay minimum of $9 and a maximum of $200 a month to actually get this, or you can do it this way that I'm actually showing you, which was literally $20 a one-time payment, and you're literally done, right? So let's actually go back to what we were doing. Great. Okay. So now that we are logged in as root, the Orange Pi has done its initial updates. I'm actually, before I do anything, I always like to do a sudo apt update, and you can do ampersand, and you can do a sudo apt upgrade, and a -y. So this command is going to do an update and an upgrade for it all one after the other, right? So I'm just going to actually run this command, and it might already actually have been done, but let's actually see what happens, because I definitely want it to be up to date before I start installing anything on it. Excellent. So just like I thought, 0 upgraded, 0 newly installed, and 0 to remove, 0 to be upgraded. So when you actually boot up the Orange Pi 03 with Diet Pi on it, it actually does all its updates and it gives you a system ready to use. Now, what we really want to do is like I said, we're installing Ghost CMS. So I'm actually going to go back here and I'm going to explain something real quick. Now, if you actually do have Ghost, it essentially works on Docker. So Ghost essentially is just a Docker image that you can install very, very easily on your system and get it up and running. All right, great. So let's actually take a look at this. So what we're going to do, there are a few ways to actually do this, right? But I'm actually going to run it the easiest way possible. And literally it just takes a couple of commands and you actually have it running. You can use the docker run command that a lot of people are used to, but I'm actually going to go ahead and use the best one, which is the production mode version. So that's the best part about it, this production mode. And I'm going to actually go ahead and use Docker Compose is what I'm going to go ahead and use, right? So let's actually go back to our .py over here. And in order to do that, in order to install Docker, we definitely need to have Docker installed on it to begin with. So let's actually go ahead and type in Docker Debian install. Let's do a quick Google search. And there you go. The first response tells us that we can actually go to it and install Docker engine on Debian. So I'm going to actually go ahead and run this command first, just to check if there are any Docker packages on it. I know it doesn't, but it's always good to run this command. Run the following command to uninstall any conflicting packages that you may have. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. All right, and I'm going to press enter. And what it's going to do, it's actually going to go through and check if there are any packages for Docker that are currently installed that we don't want. We don't want any conflicting packages. Okay, so it actually has checked, and there are currently no conflicting Docker applications installed on this .py little Orange Pi system. So let's actually go ahead and take a look at the next command. So the installation methods. I am going to use the apt repository. There are probably a few other ways to do it, but I personally do like the apt repository. That's the one I use all the time. So this is basically the next bunch of commands actually sets up the Docker apt repository on your system right before the installation, right? So we want to make sure that we, go ahead and run all these little commands. You could easily just click this little copy button right here, go back to your session, and you just have to paste it. And after that, just press enter. And it will go ahead and set up the repository for us. Excellent. Okay, so it's actually gone through that command. It has already set up the repository. It's done an update as well after that. So it's basically telling us that we are actually ready to install Docker, right? So now the next step we want to do, we want to skip this part. You don't really need to do that. You can actually go ahead and install Docker engine on your device. So you can go here, click that little copy button again, and go back down here to your session, and I'm just going to paste it in. And we're going to hit enter. Now this will take a couple of minutes more. I'm just going to let it actually go through its steps and go ahead and install Docker. It does actually install Docker Compose plugin as well, which is what we're going to use. Okay, excellent. So now we definitely do have Docker installed. And the best thing to do is to confirm if you definitely do have Docker Engine and Docker Compose installed, is the next little thing is to verify that the installation was successful, is to actually go ahead and run this little application called Hello World, which a lot of people might be familiar with if you've actually done any programming in the past. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy that sudo docker run hello world application. I'm going to copy that command right there, go back to my session, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it. And it's going to say that I'm unable to find this image locally on your machine. I'm going to go ahead and find it, install it, and there we go. It's actually run it. So it says hello from Docker. So this message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. Great, perfect. So now we know that Docker is fully installed. I'm going to go ahead and do a clear, and I'm just going to clear my screen. So there we go. That's done. Right, so what's the next step? The next step is to actually go ahead and run Ghost, and to actually install Ghost. That's what we want to do. So in order to install Ghost, we want to go back to our session, and we want to first make a directory for Ghost. We just want to make a folder and install everything in a folder and keep things neat and tidy, right? So I'm actually going to go ahead and type in sudo mkdir, make directory, and I'm going to type Ghost. All right, so that's basically done. Now if I do an ls, there we go, that's our folder. So I'm going to go to a cd space, and if you tab, you just type in a G and you tab, it's going to type Ghost for you, and just press enter. And now we are in the Ghost directory, and as you can see, it's a blank directory. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we want to make a file, a Docker Compose file. correct? So the steps are that we actually create a file called docker-compose.yml, which is essentially a YAML file. And we want to go ahead and copy this example and we want to paste it in the file. That's really all there is to it. So what I'm actually going to go do is go back to my session, and I'm actually going to go ahead and type sudo nano docker-compose.yml. So that's actually the file that I'm actually going to create. So if you go back here and you look at this file, it's docker-compose.yml, is exactly the same thing that I've typed over here. I've typed docker. Oh, I have not. I've made a mistake. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to type docker compose.yml. So that's identical to what they've actually given in the example. And when I actually do that, Nano is a program that'll open up and allow me to enter text. So when I click enter over there, it actually opens up a little Nano editor that allows me to create files or text files. So let's go back to our example that we have. And this is actually the example that they've actually given to actually run Ghost using Docker Compose plugin. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a copy, and it's copied. Literally, it's all copy paste. And I'm going to go ahead and right click, and that pastes it. So now a few things that we may want to do. What I do want to do is, because I'm not going to be connecting to this from localhost. Localhost means you're going to be connecting it from that specific machine, but I'm not. I'm actually going to be connecting it from over SSH, so I'm going to give it the actual IP address. So let's find what is the IP address on my system. The IP address was 141. Go back here, and I'm going to just remove localhost, and I'm going to type 192.168.1.141. Right? And this is what I'm going to do initially. We can actually type in, if you do have a web address and you're already going to link it to like an actual website that you've bought, you can actually get rid of this IP address and you can type, make sure it's HTTPS, make sure that S is in there, and then you can forward slash, and you can actually type in your web address without the port. You don't need the port if you're typing in a web address. But for this tutorial, I'm actually just going to keep it we're just going to access it locally, and then you can connect it to the internet if you wanted to. So I'm going to remove the S because this is going to be local, and I just wanted HTTP, and I've put in my IP address in there, and I've put the port, which is 8080, and that's the port that we're going to access it from. There are a few other things that you may want to change. That is your passwords. For example, you've got your environment password, the MySQL password down here, which you would want to change. I'm going to leave it, for example, for now, because this is just a test or trial session. I'm going to destroy it after we're done. Restart always, we definitely want that. It's basically going to be using port 8080 to connect to it. That retranslates to port 2368. Now, look guys, if you do want to change your port, if you are using 8080 or if you're installing Ghost on something else, and if you're already using port 8080, you can actually change 8080. You can put something else, but make sure you don't change 2368. That should remain the same because that actually translates for Ghost. That's for Ghost to understand and for Docker really to understand. So you can actually change 8080 to anything you wanted, but just make sure you keep 2368 the way it is. There are a few other passwords like the database connection password that you can change. At the moment it's example, but I'm going to leave it the way it is. So what this Docker Compose file is going to do, it's actually going to go to the Docker website. It's going to actually find the Ghost Alpine image. That's the Alpine image that it's going to do. It's going to restart always. It's always going to restart. And these are the ports it's going to use. And this is the environment variables that it's actually going to go ahead and use as well. And then it's also going to install MySQL 8. That's the database that it's going to actually install, and that for the database as well, it's always going to restart. So that's just giving you more information over there, and that's the database password. And it's actually going to create a volume called MySQL, and it's going to create that in that specific folder structure, which is the var lib MySQL folder, and that's a volume that's actually going to create. So that's really what this Docker Compose file will do. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control X, and it's going to say save modified buffer, and I'm going to enter. So I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to press enter, and now what it's actually gone ahead and done, it's created that file for me called docker compose.yml. Now, if you do an ls, you'll see that there you go. There's my file. And if I go back and type in sudo nano, if I want to ever go edit it, I can actually go ahead and type sudo nano docker-compose.yml. And there we go. We're back into the file. So now to go back, I'm going to hit Control X. Right, so that's what we've done. Now, all we really need to do to get this up and running is type in sudo docker space compose space up and -d. I'm going to put in a -d because I want to make sure that it can continue running even if my system crashes, or if I lose connection, this SSH connection to my Orange Pi, it'll continue running and finish its process. So once again, that command is sudo docker compose up -d, and I'm going to hit enter. It couldn't actually find it. It's actually pulling from the Docker website, and it's going ahead and pulling all the different parts of that application of Ghost for us right now. So that's what it's actually doing. It's downloading all of them, and then it will go ahead and install them. Right, so while I'm going to actually let this process go ahead, and I'll be right back with you guys once this process is actually done. Excellent. So that actually went ahead and downloaded and installed without a hitch. Perfect. So what's actually happened is when we ran that docker compose command, and went ahead and pulled all the different files of the Docker website, and it's gone ahead and installed Ghost. So it's gone ahead and created a network for Docker, which it created. It created a volume called Ghost database. It actually went ahead and created another volume for Ghost, and then the container was installed, and that's we go. We've started the containers. Both the containers are actually running at the moment. Now, how do we actually check that? We can actually check what the containers are running. So we can type in sudo docker ps-a. And this is to check what's actually running. So as you can see, we've got Ghost that's up 1 second ago, and it's TCP port 2368, and which is 8080 translates to 2368 as I mentioned. And then we've also got the MySQL, which it installed, which is the database, and that's also on 3306 if you wanted to connect to that, but I don't think that's really necessary. Okay, and you still got the hello world that's currently exited, so we don't have to worry about that. So as you can see, it is actually told us that it is up and running. So it's been up just for a second when I checked it, but I can run that command again, and now it's told us that it's been up for 35 seconds. Okay, alright, so now the Ghost has been up for about a minute, and it's perfect. I think it's probably ready, and I'm going to minimize my session right here, and I'm actually going to go to that IP address, which I'm going to type it in as 192.168.1.141 colon 8080, and it's going to tell me the connection is not secure, of course, because I'm connecting it to locally, and I'm going to say continue to site. So if you do get that, don't worry about it. Just continue on to the site. Right, so now, as you can see, we do have, so when we actually go to the IP address and the port, we are presented with their basic theme that they have installed already for us. Now, in order to actually get to the admin panel, what we'd want to do is after that port of 8080 that you've typed in, make sure that you do a / and type in Ghost. And when you do that, it will take you to a sign-in form to actually sign in to Ghost, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So this is where you can give your website a title, correct? So excellent. I'm going to actually give a title called Amar's Daily Blog, okay? Or Amar's Media Blog. Let's talk about media. So Amar's Media Blog. I'm going to give it a full name. Right, okay. I'm going to give it a last name. And I'm going to give it a password, right? So let's just give it a password for now that I'll remember. Perfect. So I've given it a password. I've given it a name. I've typed in my full name over here. Perfect. Okay, so I've typed in my full name, email address, and I can go ahead and say create account and start publishing. And when you do that, it's actually created that account with the details that we've actually typed in. And there we go. We can actually start publishing with Ghost. Now, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, Ghost is extremely easy to use. It's extremely user friendly. It's got everything built into it. All the plugins, we don't really need to worry about installing plugins like you would in WordPress. And of course, there you go. You know, you've got a free CMS, essentially a full-fledged website builder, right on a $20 to $25 little mini computer running fine. You can host it from your house, use Cloudflare, and you can actually get it online on the web, on the World Wide Web, very easily. So look, this is not a tutorial on how to actually use Ghost. That's probably going to come in the future, but I just wanted to kind of demonstrate and show you how easy it actually is to go ahead and install Ghost. There are a few things that I will go through over here because I'm just excited and I'm in front of it. But the first thing I usually like to do is go in dark mode, and that's what I've just done. A little flip of a switch right here at the bottom. And as you can see, you can go ahead and customize your site. So that's the first thing, and it's very easy to go ahead and do that when you click on it. This is obviously the main theme, so it's got my little name that I gave it over here. It's got your navigation right on the top. You can change colors. You can actually, you can actually customize a lot of the things. But what I do want to show you is if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see the themes that it does have. So you can click on that, and you can, there you go. You've got all these little themes right on, the Ghost CMS itself. This is free. 100% free. And then you do have a marketplace as well. If you do go to the Ghost marketplace, you can actually go ahead and download. You can purchase themes if you wanted. So there's a whole bunch of themes over here. These are all the themes that you can actually go ahead and purchase. Some of them are, they are up there. The price is up there, but doesn't matter. You've still got all these free themes to use. And all you need to do, if you want to use any of these themes, you just click on it. Let me actually find something that I would really like. So I'm going to go to here, change theme, and just scrolling through these. If I'm actually writing a media blog, I kind of really like Casper, which is the theme that it comes with. But another blog that actually kind of caught my eye is Digest as well, if you're going to write articles and things like that. If you're into photography, you could use Edge. That looks like an interesting theme as well for photography. And then at the end, you've got Ease for documentation. I have used Casper before, and I kind of do like Casper, so I kind of stick to Casper, really. But yeah, you can select any of these themes. So just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Ease, and I'm going to install the Ease theme right over here. So you can actually click on this Install Ease button, and there you go. It's installing, and then you click on Activate, and perfect. Now we have Ease activated. Now we just go ahead and save it. And so there's a lot of things that you can actually do with Ghost. I would really recommend that you do dive into it and have a look at Ghost, and have a look at the things that you can do. What I really like about Ghost the most is its membership. So you can actually create a membership, and people can sign up to actually become a member of your blog. And so you can actually do a lot of marketing stuff. Like you can write an article, and halfway through the article, you can say to read more, sign up, subscribe, and become a member. And people can do that, and you can build your mailing list just that way. Okay, so there you go. That's Ghost CMS for you. Great. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you, and hopefully you will go ahead and install Ghost on your own device. You can use a Raspberry Pi, Orange Pi, whatever you wanted. I actually showed you probably the cheapest one and the most low powered device that you can actually use to run a website like this. And it's quite snappy anyway. So hope you enjoyed that. Thanks all.